I define Liga MX as the shoot your shot league.
You do expect higher performances and better things from Club Americas, but it's the inconsistencies.
Isn't this inconsistent though?
I will maintain that the U.S. men's national team came out to the knockout round despite terrible coaching.
Like they have a student discount maybe to go to Pumas games? Like they got it, right?
No.
To take that next step, I think it's still undisputed that you have to go to Europe.
He's going to be on the ground for the majority of the time. No,
I
look back at highlights.
That's the Christian Pulisic treatment, though.
Same.
We're going to have to stop this. We're going to start arguing on this podcast, aren't we?
Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Real Futbol Show. As always, I'm Lizzy, your co-host, and with me, Geno Gonnello. How are you?
I'm doing well, Lizzy. As you can see, there's a different graphic behind us in this background, and a lot of fun things that we have on this podcast coming up for you guys. So we'll get into all of that, but everything's been good. It's been a busy time, obviously, for MLS, Women's World Cup. A lot of things going on, and we'll dive into as much of it as we can on the pod today.
Yeah, as you mentioned, so this is a special edition of our podcast. Lots of surprises coming. As you may see, it also is different. I am in Washington, D.C., just getting off of all the MLS All-Star action against Arsenal, which was quite a show. The skills challenge was definitely interesting. And then you had the game yesterday, which shocked, I would say. The scoreline was not up to par
not
with
what you want as an MLS fan.
What?
Not what you want as an MLS fan.
Oh, absolutely not. That 5-0 was really difficult. But I think the MLS All-Star head coach Wayne Rooney, also DC United's head coach, kind of phrased it perfectly in the post-match press conference. They asked him, did you learn anything from this experience? Are you taking away anything from this experience? And he goes, absolutely nothing. So that was
what do you take away from that? Realistically, a lot of people made some really good points about the All-Star game and the fact that, listen, you're playing a team that's been playing together for the most part. A lot of them have been playing together for years. Like this is a full team who's in preseason. Yes, they're not at the fitness level that maybe, the MLS All-Stars are at fitness wise, but you're getting a bunch of group of players who have never played together really before for the most part, playing a team who just finished in England and has been playing together for a significant amount of time under the same coach. It's a little bit of an unfair battle in that aspect. Listen, is it? I don't think it's any knock on the MLS. It doesn't. Right. It doesn't change people's opinion. I think the only way I think it was a win-win situation for the MLS. You get Arsenal there, you draw some attention, get some big players, but if you play well, you play well. If you don't, you don't. It's not the end of the world. So, it's not the result you wanted, not the way you wanted it to go. There were some pretty fantastic goals though. So yeah. It's kind of hard to blame some of the goalkeepers on some of these goals. So, Arsenal just showed out.
Yeah, it was definitely not a reflection of Major League Soccer. And we know that this is for entertainment purposes only. And you kind of saw that by the substitutions. You had batches of 6 players coming in and out, never really just one starting 11. This was just a great way to show out against a European team. Obviously, it's apples and oranges, as you mentioned. There's talk about doing something like East versus West, which I guess would be a little bit more fair. Or even last year's version, Liga MX All-Stars against MLS All-Stars, which would be a little more up to par given the fact that it's the same format. But against a European team, we've seen in the past, we saw Atletico Madrid, we saw Juventus, and now Arsenal. And it was great to watch. Audi Field sold out. More than 20,000 people went and filled the seats. And it was just a great atmosphere. The goals, as you said, amazing. Watching Declan Rice get his first minutes in with Arsenal after making that move, historic. And yeah, I think all in all, it was just a great experience for all involved, and it was a lot of fun. Head over to our 90-Min US socials for a little hype of the All-Star Skills Challenge, a recap, live stories from the field. It was so much fun. But now we move on to the very exciting, very, very exciting first official World Cup style edition of Leagues Cup first time ever where all Liga MX teams and all MLS teams will face off in one competition. And we're kicking off. And now we have a new addition to this tournament that we can't ignore. Well, two new additions. Sergio Busquets and Lionel Messi have strengthened Inter Miami and hopes to rescue them. Jorge Mas, co-owner of Inter Miami, revealed that he's expecting Lionel Messi to debut on Friday against Cruz Azul. New head coach Gerardo Tata Martino also mentioned that he will be coming in. But what no one realized, kind of was swept under the rug, is the fact that Tata Martino also mentioned that Jordi Alba will be arriving in the next couple days. His name was also included in Inter Miami's official Leagues Cup roster, despite he has yet to be announced on any social media platform. No official announcement, no contract public contract as of yet. So we're about to see the group between Cruz Azul, Atlanta United, and Inter Miami just really heat up. What are your thoughts? Who's gonna win?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Cruz Azul is near and dear to my heart after 1 year of disappointment. As we know on this podcast, I root for teams that are largely disappointing, and Cruz Azul is one of them. And things haven't started out too well in the Apertura either. So, Inter Miami, obviously, it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be crazy to see, first of all, Lionel Messi in an Inter Miami jersey playing in the MLS and obviously not in the MLS directly in Leagues Cup to start off before he kicks off the MLS campaign after Leagues Cup. But I mean, what Inter Miami's doing right now is exceptional with their team. I mean, it's good and bad. I mean, we're bringing in players that are 35, 36, 37 years old, but they have such a big name in the footballing world that it's important to bring these players in to draw attention and to bring in these players and draw attention to the league from not only fans, but also other players. And also Inter Miami is also looking at some young kids. I think they're looking at a kid from Paraguay. They've signed a couple other younger kids. So they've had a heck of a transfer window so far. And it'll be interesting to see. I mean, listen, don't expect Inter Miami to go out there and be all of a sudden fixed magically from their 15th place season that they've already had. It's not going to happen, but over time, things will change. And I think this is more a look towards next season because there's going to be a lot of players that are going to come in this transfer window. A lot of players are going to make differences. A lot of players are going to go out. And, I think this is just the start of what Inter Miami is building, what the MLS is building. So it's definitely an exciting time.
Yeah, and you also have a couple of narratives within that group as well. You have Thiago Almada, Argentinian World Cup winner, who was obviously in Qatar with Messi with Atlanta United, now facing off against his international team teammate in Inter Miami. So that should be just a very fun watch. And then I know we've seen him play already against Atlanta United in regular season, but Josef Martinez against his old team, against his old coach. Definitely just so many fun things to watch out there. But we're going to shift to the South, from the South to Central, where Central 3, you have Sporting Kansas City, you have FC Cincinnati, and Chivas de Guadalajara. And I swear, the storylines just write themselves. I don't know who picked this group, but there's just so much tea between all the teams. You have Brandon Vasquez and FC Cincinnati, who chose the U.S. men's national team over Mexico and now facing, obviously, Chivas de Guadalajara, which is considered Mexico's team. So that's just an interesting one right there. Alan Pulido, who's with Sporting Kansas City, playing against Chivas de Guadalajara. He's a legend there. He won a trophy there. He shined. They love him. And he's rumored to go back there. So just a very interesting game between the two. Just off the pitch, it's wild. So I can't even imagine the sparks that are going to fly once that ball gets rolling. But I'm just so fascinated. I do think Chivas is going to win that one. Their momentum after last season and just ending up in the finals. They lost, of course, to Tigres, but they really just went from 0 to 100 during the clausura. And now this transfer window, we saw PSV Eindhoven's Eric Gutierrez come back to Liga MX. So they're strengthened. They're ready to go. And though FC Cincinnati is doing well and Sporting Kansas City with the return of their DPs, now that they're not injured, they're doing better. But I do think Chivas reigns that group.
Sorry, it was on mute there. But yes, no, I do think that I do think Chivas is obviously on a heck of a trajectory. I think that the one thing playing in the MLS team's favor is that Chivas has had a little bit of break here since that. Since I mean, obviously they've had 2 games in the Apertura, but there was a little bit of break. They're not in the middle of their season, similar to the MLS players who have played 20 games now and are in the middle of their season. But Chivas is probably the favorite, but again, this is going to be a heavyweight battle between the current Supporters Shield winners or leaders, in FC Cincinnati and the current Clausura title holders and one of the best teams in Liga MX, one of the most famous teams in Liga MX in Chivas.
So they didn't actually win the title, though. They got to the finals, but Tigres won the final.
Oh, yes, you're right. I'm sorry. I thought they won the title because I
good.
wanted
I mean,
them to win
Chivas
the
fans
title.
hearing you are going to be like, yes, let's rewrite history.
In my mind, I wanted them to win the title because I do not, have a soft spot in my heart for Tigres, to put it in light words. But yes, Chivas has been on, quite the trajectory. They've been phenomenal. Obviously, a lot of players in this group that are familiar with each other. Obviously, with Pulido, Sporting Kansas City, FC Cincinnati, they've played each other before. But even Alexis Vega, who's on the Mexican national team, he is on Chivas, a player who some of these players, Matt Miazga, or other players who've played on the U.S. men's national team are familiar with a little bit. So going to be a lot of fun to really see how this one plays out. I think this is probably one of the more exciting groups in terms of competitiveness in Leagues Cup.
I think things are bound to get tense, I believe. So I do think, sparks will be flying. And now staying in Central, we have Central 1, Club America, Columbus Crew, and St. Louis City. I think it's really interesting. And before the MLS season even started, it was interesting to see how it would play out for St. Louis, because obviously you have Liga MX Giants in Club America against this new expansion team who it was great because they needed that exposure. So playing against Club America was going to be extremely interesting. And I don't think anyone not within the scope of St. Louis saw them doing so well in their first season in Major League Soccer. So Central 1's bound to get interesting. I think no one took them quite seriously, and they should have been. I don't think it's that game in particular is as easy of a win for Club America as people originally thought so when the draw was made up.
Yeah, I think so. Interesting things with St. Louis. I saw yesterday that Klaus was included on the roster for St. Louis City, which is a big thing for them because he was their striker when things were going really, really well at the beginning of the season. He was scoring on all cylinders and firing on all cylinders. So it's good to have him on the roster. That means his injury is at least close enough where there is a possibility that he does play at some point in this tournament, depending on how far they get and how quickly he can recover. But my opinion personally is that St. Louis will be the team that does not make it out of this group. And I think they're going to be a little bit, obviously they've conquered the MLS, but I think that coming into this tournament style of play, we haven't really seen them. This is their first introduction in anything like this. Obviously had US Open Cup, but have this now. And they're Columbus and Club America are no joke. I mean, Columbus has been on a little bit of a roll here. Wilfred Nancy has started to find some form with, of course, some very talented players in Lucas Zelarayan and Cucho Hernandez and that talented team they have there. They're a team that I will continue to say always that I love to watch because I love Wilfred Nancy as a coach. And then Club America obviously is a giant in Liga MX who is very familiar with these tournaments and very familiar with these types of formats and group stages and things like that. So I would expect that St. Louis may struggle a little bit. That is my prediction for this group.
Interesting. I mean, we also can't forget that Columbus Crew figure, Lucas Zelarayan, played in Liga MX. He was with Tigres for a
Mhm.
while. So he's no stranger to that action or that style. He's faced Club America many times, obviously not this current roster. But still, nonetheless, he's no stranger to what Liga MX action is like and how to maneuver it. He did quite well. So I understand your prediction. I don't think it's as far off as many thought, especially considering St. Louis City's injuries and what's going on in the roster.
Mhm.
But I don't know. I'm very excited, I guess, for St. Louis to receive Club America. I think it's an underrated city in terms of the Mexican population, and there's a huge Mexican community. So I know they're excited to welcome Club America, whether they're fans of the team or not. Mexican fans actually just show out, and they're always just there supporting. So that should be an electric atmosphere on that end. But speaking on predictions and players who will feature in this tournament, we have a couple things coming. So
We do.
right on
So
time.
yes, stay
I
tuned for
think.
that. That is coming up, and watch that, and then we'll be back after this.
Yeah. So happy to be back. And on the Real Futbol Show, we have a very special guest today with us, Walker Zimmerman, fresh off of All Stars, coming into Leagues Cup. How are you feeling?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. We had an exciting week in Washington, D.C., nation's capital, for our 2023 All-Star game against Arsenal. That was a blast. Had a lot of fun off the field. Got to do some pretty cool things and hang out with a bunch of guys that I don't normally get to play with. So it was a great time.
And
Yeah,
how
that's
did it
all. Go ahead, Lizzy.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry.
no,
Didn't want to
go
cut you.
ahead.
No, I was just going to ask. Yeah, I mean that experience. Obviously, playing against Arsenal as opposed to playing against Liga MX. You want to just tell us about that experience and having a little bit of a different competition than you guys typically have?
It was great. Obviously, they had a high level of competitiveness coming in. Great season last season, finishing second in the Premier League, and ultimately, starting off their preseason with a strong result against us. As competitors, you never want to lose the game, let alone 5-0. But that is sometimes the challenge of an all-star game, throwing guys together, limited training, mixed up positions a little bit. And but it was fun, and I think that's the point of the All-Star game, is to reward these guys who are having good seasons, provide entertainment for the fans, and ultimately get a good run out as well. So great week, and was excited to be a part of it.
And there's obviously so many different components, from skills challenge to training on the National Mall. I know you guys were at the White House. What was your favorite part of this past week?
Probably for me was being at the White House, not only getting to go on a tour, but also the chance to meet the President of the United States as well as the First Lady. That's something that's super special and pretty rare to be able to do, and it was definitely a first for all of us who were players that got to attend that event. So that was the standout highlight for me, and then obviously getting to have Tucker with me and watch how he enjoys all of the skills challenges in the game was really special as well.
Is this the first time Tucker's been at? This isn't the first time he's been at any of these All-Star events.
Second All-Star game for Tucker. So he came last year and he had such a good time that we were like, we got to bring him back. We got to make him enjoy it again.
That's awesome. Now, I mean, you guys have, it's not really a break, but you've had a week where you're away from teams, from your own teams. Your teams have been training back, but is that integration, getting back into it with Leagues Cup coming up so quickly, is that going to be difficult for you guys who were at All-Stars and getting back up to speed? Or is this kind of still just a regular week like it is, from week to week and, in a typical season?
I don't think so. I don't think it'll be too difficult. I mean, these are teammates that we've been with for at least a season, and in the majority of cases for a few seasons. So we have a great locker room in Nashville, a bunch of guys who are always working hard, training hard, and they also got 2 days off after the last weekend. So we, didn't miss too much of training. So coming back in, it's like a normal week, and we're just getting focused for our 2 Leagues Cup matches.
Yeah, and talking about transition, you're going from that week in and week out MLS format to now a new World Cup style tournament in Leagues Cup. First time ever, all Liga MX, all MLS teams competing against each other. So are you looking at this tournament differently than you would the whole MLS season?
Definitely. I think anytime that you enter into a knockout type of tournament, things change and results can kind of matter a little bit more. There's a little bit different understanding of what's going on in the group. Do we need a tie? Do we need a win? And that affects your plan on the field. So for us, getting the 2 games at home is a big advantage against Colorado and Toluca. And again, getting the experience under our belt of a knockout tournament in season, it's similar to the Open Cup, but different in the sense that, probably the quality of play will jump up a little bit for each and every game.
You mentioned Toluca there. Have you had any familiarity with them? I know, it's been a busy week, and obviously you guys had a game last week. Have you had any time to prepare or look at them and see what kind of they bring to the table when you guys are going to face off?
Not yet. As a team, we're focused on Colorado this weekend, and then I'm sure we'll immediately flip the page and focus on Toluca. So with Colorado being our first game, I'm sure the staff is very busy behind the scenes preparing the Toluca game plan and the scout. But right now, we're all eyes on Colorado on Sunday.
And do you expect things to be different given it's a Liga MX team?
It definitely will be, because I think first and foremost, playing in MLS for 11 seasons now for me, a lot of seasons for other players, you're very familiar with the league, you're familiar with the teams, you're familiar with the personnel. And in this case, we're very unfamiliar with the team and the players and their skill set. So that adds another wrinkle into the preparation and puts a higher importance on, the staff and analytics team to get some good information to us to prepare.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have played, I believe you guys had the Leagues Cup showcase last year. You've had some familiarity with League MX teams, not a ton, like you say, with MLS, but, you've played the League MX All-Stars the past couple of years in the All-Star matches. Does any of that help you guys in determining maybe play styles, some players you'll go up against, understanding the League MX and kind of the beast that you're going up against when you face those types of teams as compared to MLS teams?
I think more than anything, it's just the confidence and the mentality. And for Nashville to have the opportunity to host Club America last year and get a result in PKs, that's big for the mentality, knowing that you've gone up against a Liga MX team, you've gotten a result. We're going to need all that energy and effort to do the same again this year. So we're excited. I think we'll be prepared, and we're definitely curious to see how this World Cup style format plays out.
I know you're not particularly facing Cendejas quite yet, but have the two of you spoken on a national team setting against this Liga MX versus MLS narrative that everybody has around?
We honestly didn't, which is surprising, because we were good buddies at camp. We were actually golf scramble partners for our little mini tournament that we took home the gold. So we're the champs right now.
Yes.
But we didn't touch base on a potential matchup, because I know that we are on their side of the bracket if all goes well. So haven't talked to him about it. I'm sure as it gets closer, and if we end up looking like we could face off against them, I'm sure I'll hit him up.
Any other players or teams you're looking at to face in this tournament? Any guys you're calling out, even from, mainly from Liga MX, that you're looking at and you're like, oh, that would be a great team to face off against at any point in the tournament?
For me, it's the opportunity to play against the biggest, teams from Mexico is the most exciting prospect. So you look at the big ones, right? Like, Tigres, Club America, Monterrey, the teams that have had high level of success, high level of fandom, and especially if you go to Mexico. If you're playing in Pachuca in the altitude again, like we had the chance to play them in CONCACAF Champions League when I was in Dallas and experience that. So there's a lot of different ways that you can look at different matchups. But definitely I would say, those top level teams with the strong fan support are the ones that we're going to be most excited to compete against.
And just a note for Geno here, when Walker was referencing the biggest teams in Liga MX, he did mention Club America, my team. Failed to mention Azul, your team. So great way to kick off, Walker. Just amazing.
Walker, you're killing me here, man. I mean, I've been a big Cruz Azul fan for the length of 1 year since we started this podcast. I've gotten into it a little bit. No, but yeah, I mean, listen, there are some unbelievably big clubs in Liga MX. I like to say Cruz Azul is part of it, but Lizzy would like.
Oh, they are. I said 5. I only listed 3, so we can have them, Leon. We can.
Yeah. Perfect. Sounds good to me. Any when you look forward to this as Nashville, when you're looking at this tournament, you guys are going in there. I mean, the mindset's got to be, we're going in here because we want to come home with the trophy, right?
Definitely. That's the one thing missing so far with Nashville in the first, this is our 4th season. We don't have a trophy yet, and that's frustrating as a player. when you feel like you've been competitive each and every year. We're finding ourselves losing in the playoffs 2 of our 4 years in PKs against eventual finalists, and that's frustrating. So we know that we want to win a trophy. We know that that's our expectation at this point in our development, and so Leagues Cup is another opportunity for us to be able to do that.
And thinking about how far Nashville will go, we have a very special segment, Paquito, the Pajarito de la Suerte, which we will introduce. Yeah.
There we go. We got a beautiful segment here coming up. We're going to talk about a lot of the predictions here that Paquito made. But Lizzy, before we get into any of that, why don't you just introduce us to the segment, this new segment brought to us by AT&T.
Yeah. So the tradition of El Pajarito de la Suerte comes from Mexico, especially in Jalisco, where vendors 200, 300 years ago, we would roam the streets with a little birdie and just pieces of paper, and the bird would pick out a paper and it would tell you your fortune. So it's still living on. I still go to Mexico City, especially in El Centro. You see and you walk around, multitude of colors of birds. Paquito in particular is beautifully yellow, who you'll meet in a second, but it's just a very much lovely tradition kept on by Mexico, and we have brought it to life today with AT&T. So let's have it.
Excited for it. Let's go to we're going predictions first. I think we're doing Central 1 that we're going to take a look at first. So let's take a look at that. Oh, our first look at Paquito.
There's Paquito.
Oh,
Walker, he's yellow. He's got a little bit of yellow to him. I think he's a Nashville fan, so that's good on your.
Well, and I'm sure I'll pick Columbus here too, being a yellow bird. We'll see if that theory holds true.
All right. So it looks like Club America and St. Louis are the two teams that Paquito has picked. Walker, your thoughts?
Yeah, this is a tough group. I mean, you have two very informed teams in Columbus and St. Louis. St. Louis being at top of the West, Columbus, incredibly good at home. So that's a tough group, especially when you throw in Club America there. So honestly, uphill battle. I don't know who hosts the game for between Columbus and St. Louis, but I think that's going to be a really big factor as to which MLS team is going to go through.
Have you been surprised by St. Louis's kind of form here in this expansion season? I mean, they've come in and they've been top of the West for, I think, the entire season at this point.
I have. I mean, you never know how it's going to go as an expansion team. You think you're going to have a good season, you're going to have the right pieces, but you just don't know until you start playing games. And so for them to be, a force amongst the West and stay at the top of that conference 23, 24 games in is remarkable. So hats off to them and their organization for not only their performance on the field, but the way that they pack that stadium each and every week is remarkable.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting one. And I don't know. I wouldn't be quite quick to write off Columbus Crew. I know they have Lucas Elarayan, who played in Tigres previously, so he's no stranger to Club America and Liga MX action, as opposed to certain players at St. Louis. So should be an interesting one. Which one's next, Geno?
I think next we got to go to Central 3, move it a couple groups over, but staying in the same region. So let's see what Paquito had to pick for Central 3.
This is a good one.
This is a really good group.
Yeah.
A bunch of teams that are in very good form right now. So let's see what Paquito went with. All right. Chivas and FC Cincinnati. Walker, I mean, FC Cincinnati has been a team you guys have been battling with all season. And, Chivas is obviously, like you mentioned, like has been mentioned, one of those big teams in Liga MX. Your thought on Paquito's picks here?
I think those are probably the two most logical picks. But I am curious to see how FC Cincinnati approaches this as well. They have a lot of things on their plate right now with Open Cup semifinals, obviously leading the Supporters Shield race. So I'm curious to see if they're going to try and rotate it all. And then you have to be mindful of Sporting KC in knockout competition. You look at their history in the U.S. Open Cup, look at their history in the MLS Cup playoffs, and they are not an easy team to beat in these type of formats. So I like those two picks, but again, I would not put it past Sporting KC to pull off something and go through.
Yeah, and we know there's connections all around. Alan Pulido, former Chivas player, Brandon Vasquez, Chivas target, who they rejected the offer for. So it really is, in terms of off the field intensity, quite up there in some of the groups.
Storylines.
Yeah, it should be an
Storylines.
interesting
Walker, I
one.
got to ask you before we move on. You've got Brandon Vasquez, obviously have faced off against him multiple times. Alan Pulido, who's now in the, for Sporting KC. It's had some time off due to injury. Back in, seems to be in really good form. Of those two strikers, I mean, which is the more difficult to face? Which of you, had more difficulty facing? What do they bring to the table that makes them so difficult and makes them the scoring geniuses that they are?
Two amazing strikers. To be honest, I don't even know that I've gotten a chance to play against Alan Pulido. I know I was in the Western Conference with him, but he was out for a while with that knee injury. So obviously he's an immense talent, and it's great to see him back and healthy, because I think he was a really exciting signing for Sporting KC, and so to get him back on the field is a huge asset for them. Brandon Vasquez, a forward that I've gotten to face numerous times and also played alongside with the national team, and he's a great target striker, can hold up the ball really well, and is very good in the box, not only aerially, but with his feet as well. So two great finishers, and those teams are lucky to have those guys for sure.
All right, Lizzy, what do you say? Let's move to South 3.
Let's do it.
All right, South 3. This is probably the most, in terms of storylines, this probably has one of the bigger storylines with Inter Miami in it. Obviously, my Cruz Azul and Atlanta United with Thiago Almada. Let's see what Paquito picks.
Yeah. Let's see if Messi can do it.
There you go.
Yes,
See pink. Yes, Inter Miami and Cruz Azul. Again, as Lizzy mentioned, Messi now in there for Inter Miami. Cruz Azul, obviously a big club from Liga MX, and obviously Atlanta United has had a great start to the season as well. Walker, your thoughts on Inter Miami and Cruz Azul coming out of that group?
I think it's going to be a tough task for Inter Miami. I know that they have the additions of some pretty special players, Messi included in that, obviously. But they are a team that's been struggling in MLS. And so maybe this will be a really good reset button for them to focus on a new competition, because it's not gone great for them in the MLS regular season. So I know there's going to be a lot of excitement, a lot of buzz going on with his arrival, but I really think I'm going to see Atlanta United going through here with Cruz Azul. I don't know how much Messi and Busquets are going to be involved in these games. I'm sure they're coming back from their off season, so I don't think we're going to see significant minutes in the first two. So that's part of the reasoning, and I for one will be tuning in to that game for sure.
There you go. Disagreeing with Paquito a little bit there, Walker. I mean, obviously Messi, such a big figure to come into the MLS in general. Even if he doesn't play too much here, he'll be playing in the MLS once the season starts up again after Leagues Cup. What does it mean for this league, for the players in this league, for, just everything involved with MLS, that he is now in MLS playing for Inter Miami?
It's massive, and I don't think that we're going to understand the value that he's bringing to this league until many years from now. Obviously, it's been immediate right now, but I think the full scope of it's not going to be realized until another 5 to 10 years. We have a lot to look forward to in the United States next couple of years with Copa America, World Cup 2026. So his arrival is only going to boost the interest in soccer as a major sport in the United States. And we're certainly happy as players for that challenge to go up against, the GOAT.
For sure. And I think we have one more thing. We've done the predictions, and we'll get to all the predictions that Paquito made in a little bit. But before we do that, we've got a fortune for you, as Lizzy talked about a little bit. Paquito, Parajito, making fortunes, making predictions. And so let's see what the fortune is that Paquito has for you, Walker, before we wrap things up here.
I thought I was going to find a special one behind the TV there for a second.
I know. I thought that's where they were hidden. He's got a nice setup there, though.
Yeah.
Apparently he reads a lot. All right, let's take a look at it. It is Your Future Will Be Bright. You will make a journey that will be very, very beneficial for you. Walker, that's a pretty good one if you're going to get anyone.
That's a really good one.
That is pretty good. I feel like fortunes are always pretty favorable, pretty happy, pretty optimistic. This one is great. I'm actually expecting a second child in the next 2 to 3 weeks, so hopefully I don't have to miss any League Cup games. But I can apply this fortune to the arrival of our baby girl or our Leagues Cup performances. So I'm taking that one, and I'm happy with it.
Love that. And me and my wife are expecting a baby too. So, I think I'm going to take that one for myself as well. So
yeah. We can share. No problem.
Yeah.
And before we wrap, we want to know, Paquito we heard from, but Walker, your predictions, how far will Nashville make it?
I really like our chances. I like the way that we performed in these knockout types of situations. I mentioned, getting knocked out in PKs a couple times. But I think we have the build and the roster to get it done. So I'm taking us all the way. We got a team full of believers. So let's go win this thing.
And
let's see what Paquito thought. Oh, sorry. Before we see what Paquito
thought. Who do I want in the final? Man, this could cause some controversy between you two. So I'll go. We know we can't play. I guess we could play Club America still if we don't win our group. But yeah, I'm gonna go with them. I want to face a Mexican team in the final. I think that would be pretty special to have kind of one from Liga MX and one from MLS. So why not take down the biggest one?
I think Walker's just biased. I think you're just biased to the color yellow.
Walker. I think so. Yeah, I want to wear the black kit in the final. So Johnny Cash is gonna bring it home.
That is a sick kit. I love that kit. So we would love to see you in that one. But before we go, let's take a look. I know you made your predictions on what you thought Nashville will do, but we do have the full predictions. Let's take a look at what they have here. And it does look like Paquito in Central 4 there, as we zoom in, has Toluca and Colorado advancing. Walker, I mean, wait, I thought you guys were boys. What happened?
It's pretty comical. I mean, we got 2 home games there. It just shows that he really is a pajarito de suerte, of luck, because it's going to take a lot for us to not pull through for our fans at home.
There you go. That's I like that attitude. I like that attitude a lot. You guys can catch all the other picks that Pajarito made here on the screen. Of course, we went through a couple of them, but these are the rest of them. But I think that about wraps it up. Lizzy, you got anything else for Walker?
No, that was phenomenal. I'm very excited to watch you in this tournament and see what comes true.
Absolutely. Walker, thanks so much for joining us, and thank you to AT&T for bringing us this segment and allowing us to speak with Walker. And we'll have more of our friends on, so stay tuned for more predictions from Paquito, and best of luck, Walker, with both the baby on the way and your Leagues Cup tournament here coming up.
Thank you both.
Hugs to the wife.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it, and congrats to you as well.
Appreciate it, Walker. Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
There you have it. Thank you so much to Walker Zimmerman for joining us on this special edition of the Real Futbol Show. It was very interesting to see who Paquito chose, the history, and all of the traditions ahead of this Leagues Cup tournament. We're very, very excited. And if he's right, it should be a really, really good tournament. So stay tuned for the rest. We'll cover it all here. But that was
a lot more surprises for you guys too. So stay tuned. Make sure to keep, tuning in, because we got some more surprises coming. So, it is obviously great talking to Walker, and, first guest on the show. So that's always fun. But it was great having the opportunity to talk to him. And, like you said, a lot of fun with Paquito, and we'll see how this Leagues Cup plays out.
Yeah, we love Paquito. See you later.
Bye.